this is your first episode of the Money Alchemist podcast, and you are relatively new to the National Wealth Management Group, which is the registered investment advisor, Brent Gargano, who's normally the co-host. By the way, shout out to Brent. Shout out to Brent's wife. She is currently delivering, as I understand it, in the process of delivering his third child. That's so very baby exciting girl. There. Yeah, baby girl. We're all super happy for Brent, but that's also not jealous of his soon-to-be new sleep schedule. So, it's gonna be rough. But yeah, we're excited to have you because you actually come to us with a very well-credentialed work history. So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So Matt Heitman, excited and happy to be here. And yeah, I worked with Brent at Fidelity Investments. We were in the 401k department. We were doing, cranking 401k calls for quite some time there out of their Covington call center. And I eventually jumped over to Fidelity in Beaver Creek. I worked in their branch there and made my way over. I jumped around a couple times, ended up at Key Private Bank in downtown Dayton.
Yeah.
And then eventually, found my way over here after a couple more pit stops.
Yeah. I wonder how many people in Cincinnati know when they're calling into their 401k. Because I think it's some stat, 1 out of 4 Americans have a Fidelity 401k. It's some crazy number.
It's unbelievable, yeah. They got a lot of plans.
Yeah, and I wonder how many people who call into their 401k plan service center in Cincinnati, which is where we're located,
right.
Know that they're actually just talking to someone across the river.
Yeah, sure.
Which is pretty cool because a lot of times you call into, I know this is the case with Principal and some other companies, you call in, John Hancock is another one, you're talking to an overseas call center.
Sure.
Which is so frustrating. And on so many levels, it's not just in my opinion, it's not just the language barrier, which generally isn't too much of a problem. It's just the you want to support your fellow Americans, Sure. There's just something about the outsourcing of call centers that is irksome because that's a good paying job in the United States that's not there anymore.
Sure.
So I guess it's the populace coming out of me, but
it's a good starter job, right? I mean, I think that's a lot of the younger kids now coming out of college are saying, look, we can't find anywhere to go. And Fidelity was a great
farm.
place.
It is a farm for people getting into this industry. What a great company.
Fidelity University.
Yes, that's right. And that's where you come from with Brent. And happy to have you here. So welcome everybody to the Money Alchemist podcast. One of your hosts, Ben Jones. And then, of course, I've already introduced Matt Heitman. He is kind of our local, internal, I suppose, financial planning guru. So this guy's got credentials as, if he tattooed his credentials on his arm, they would go all the way to his middle finger. Which I don't recommend using in a client meeting. But
that's right.
Today we're here to talk about something near and dear to your heart, which is the 401k plan. So not just the 401k plan, just all ERISA plans, which is actually what Fidelity specializes in. So what a great topic to dig into. Also great considering the time of year where we're all about to go into open enrollment. We're all about to reassess our cash flows for 2026, and so we thought it'd be good timing to discuss how to best use your 401k plan. What are some things to avoid? How are 401k plans designed? And there's been some recent, executive orders. We were just kind of laughing about this. And I was reading this AI search here where the executive order that was just signed was called democratizing access to alternative assets for your 401k plan investors. What do you make of that statement?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of things, you're seeing some of the benefits of lobbyists, right? As they're trying to get more, more of their products or more of what they think will make money into 401k plans.
Yeah.
And I think alternatives is just another in the line of many things that'll get added as that seems to be the hot topic of today, right?
Yeah. Well, what's an alternative? I think for people who may not have heard that term before, describe an alternative.
Well, to me, an alternative investment is like private equity.
Yes.
Or an asset or an investment opportunity where you can invest in a non-public company or a company under distress.
Yes.
You know, okay, hey, here's a company that's on the brink of bankruptcy.
Oh, that sounds like a great investment.
Right. For your 401k assets, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wild. And as you can imagine, those that are good at this can make a lot of money, but you're trying to, if you hit 1 out of 100, you would be unbelievably successful. So to think that these would make good long-term retirement investments when you're like, look, I just need to hit 1 versus, the wide breadth of companies.
Yeah.
It's you're definitely in the higher risk category, I think, when you're trying to get into these.
Yeah, that sounds like venture capital.
Yeah.
Kind of their modus operandi is,
Right.
spread as, scatter as many seeds as possible, and one of them's bound to hit pay dirt.
Right. I mean, these will be funds in the plan, so it's not like you're just going to get one true investment, but you better hope you get a good one.
Yeah,
you're gonna
definitely.
invest in
Yeah, which isn't a guarantee. What I think of private equity. So I've been seeing a lot of private equity activity recently, and just to explain this to our people listening. So private equity is it's stock in a company that's not traded on an exchange.
Yeah.
So and if it's traded on exchange, is known as publicly traded. So publicly traded stock, like locally here in Cincinnati, you got Kroger, Procter and Gamble, Fifth Third. These are all traded on either the NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, one of these exchanges. And anybody, any Tom, Dick, or Harry with a brokerage account can buy portions of this company.
Sure.
That's a publicly traded company. A private company would be like Chick-fil-A. Go buy stock in Chick-fil-A. Good luck. You can't. It's private. And we're seeing a slew, like recently, like the big announcement was Electronic Arts, which is a video game company, something near and dear to our hearts. A little secret. Matt and I both are guilty of playing video games. So, but Electronic Arts is the largest video game publisher in the world. And it just was bought by a consortium of private equity investors. I think there was 3 entities that bought it for $55 billion. So what that means is you soon, I don't know when, but soon, within the next several months, will not be able to buy and sell shares of Electronic Arts. So we're seeing a pickup in this activity. We're not going to speculate on why that is, although I do have theories, and it's impacting IPOs and small cap stocks, and but the idea is, we want the everyday American, what I call the ham and egg eaters, to have access to these private pools of capital known as private equity.
That's right.
Reality is, what's happening is, I think that the fervor of PE acquisitions it's kind of it needs a new pool of capital. And what bigger pool of capital is there than the American 401k plan?
Yeah. Trillions of dollars.
Yeah. How much is in the American? So let me look that up. So
my guess is north of, I'm going to say 20 trillion.
Total size of
far out there, guess.
American 401k plan balances. All right, we're going to come back to that because it takes Grok a minute to think about this stuff, but. Yeah, so that was a recent executive order that was passed, and I'm somewhat critical of it. It does also permit, or it paves the way for cryptocurrency funds to be added into 401k plans.
Sure.
Not necessarily cryptocurrencies natively. That would be very difficult to do. Like, how do you host a cold wallet inside of a 401k plan? That would be kind of complicated, but. Aside from that, we can touch on this stuff later. What we really want to talk about is how are 401k plans typically designed. So I want you to opine on that. It's like, what's the most common 401k plan? Maybe give us an example of some like uncommon plans where you've been able to find like really useful hacks that your clients can use to better leverage their 401k plan. And then, what are some the best practices for people to use 401k plans? So we'll start with the first question, which is, what are the most common plan designs? Like, what do you typically see out there, Matt?
Yeah.
By the way, answer $9.3 trillion.
Okay.
That's actually lower than I thought. Here it says 13 trillion at the end of Q2 2025. I thought it'd be more than that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I guess 20. I mean, I know that's closer.
Yeah,
to
I mean, government debt does double
Right,
that.
right,
So,
right.
like, okay.
Right.
I think we need to save more people. All right, let's go back to you.
Yeah. Well, the most common type of 401k that I see, just kind of your safe harbor 401k plans, right? Like, hey, I contribute to this. I'm immediately vested in my contributions. I get a company match, typically 3%. The match is typically pre-tax. I'm able to contribute pre-tax. And I put this money in my 401k plan from the time I start my employment until the time I end my employment.
Mm-hmm.
I have 20 investments, let's say, to pick from, usually some target date funds and a money market. And, hey, that's what I then direct or choose how I invest it, or I pick the default fund or whatever was online, and I let my money ride as it comes out of my check.
Well, who picks these funds? So, like the default fund, for example, what typically is that? Who selects that? And is the default fund always could it be a cash fund, or like what does it look like normally?
I don't see them defaulting to cash much anymore, which I think is a good thing for, your investors that get auto enrolled in these plans, or, there are some, employees of companies, they never pull up their 401k ever. They just take the auto enrollment, which auto enrolls them at 3%. And, they go into the default fund, which to your question is, well, who picks that? Well, their plan sponsor, which a lot of times they're between their employer and maybe a broker that's helping them buy or purchase the plan. And I think thankfully they're picking these target date funds, or these funds that are more aggressive if you're younger and then less aggressive as you age. So at least they're getting some equity exposure inside their retirement account.
Yeah.
Especially if they just auto enroll and never look at it.
Yeah.
Which hopefully isn't anybody listening, right? Hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a little more.
I have a story. So, all right. I used to work at JP Morgan Securities. That was my thing. So, and then I had a non-solicitation agreement.
Okay.
All right. So when I terminated my employment with JP Morgan to go independent,
Okay.
I had to honor that non-solicitation.
Fair enough.
So I had to figure out something to do for 12 months. So I went and worked for a local company called Cincinnati Bell, which is now Alta Fiber. So in the daytime, I would be a financial advisor, and at nighttime, like Batman, I was a optics specialist.
Love it. I love it.
But there is this guy that was my supervisor. His name's Jeff. I know his last name. And if Jeff, hopefully one day you're listening to this, because I tell your story all the time. I won't say his last name. But we were talking about the 401k plan, because Cincinnati Bell had a pretty decent 401k plan. It was with Fidelity.
Yeah.
And I was talking about, my investments, what I was picking, and I was encouraging everybody, you guys need to participate in this. He says, I'm not going to ever use that 401k plan. And I'm like, why? And he says, I just think it's stupid. I said, well, Jeff, I hate to tell you this, man, but you're auto-enrolled.
Yeah.
They auto-enrolled you.
Amazing.
You have been doing this 401k plan since you worked at Cincinnati Bell, which had been like a decade.
Wow.
So, and he says, what do you mean? I said, go to fidelity.com, or it was 401k.com,
Sure.
which Fidelity was brilliant for securing that domain. But he went there and he creates a Fidelity balance. Guy discovers that he has $250,000.
Let's go.
He had no idea it existed.
Amazing.
None whatsoever. And it was shortly after I kind of terminated, because my non-solicit fell off, so I didn't need that, supplemental income anymore. So, I don't know whatever he did with that plan, but he had an affinity for Harley Davidson. So I like to think that he probably cashed the whole thing in and bought new Harleys. But anyway, yeah, those auto enrollments are incredibly valuable.
It's one of the best things. If you're a plan sponsor, if you're an employer, you're looking at, hey, what's one of the best things I can add to my 401k plan to get more participation? It truly is auto enrollment.
Yes.
Just having that. And my understanding of the Secure Act 2.0, which I know we'll get more into, I think they're even making that kind of more the standard, where you're just going to have.
Well, yeah, in fact, I read that 401k plans that enable auto enrollment, new plans, they qualify for additional tax credits.
Yep.
So if you're an employer looking for this, like you're looking at setting up a new employer plan for, your employees, you definitely want to do auto enrollment.
Yeah. Which
and-
I think is becoming mandatory for
yeah,
plans
and I
after
believe
24.
the elective match is less. So I think that you don't have to match 4%, maybe get around 3%. Don't quote me on that, but there are some privileges to employers that to set up auto enrollment. And as an employee, if you think, well, I can't afford it, I can't afford to contribute, then I would argue no, you can, as my example proved. You can absolutely afford it. So do the math. I don't know if you're good at this in your head, Matt. Hopefully you are. Like if you deferred $1,000 a month, like how much does that actually reduce your paycheck by because of tax benefits?
If I defer $1,000 a month,
Yeah, let's just say it's that $1,000 a month.
it'll depend on my withholding, right? So if I have some aggressive listeners like me who want to file, as married with 4 exemptions, for example, you'll feel that benefit maybe a little bit less, right? Because you're already having the least amount taken out of your paycheck. But
Yes.
if you're a single zero filer and you have a lot taken out of your paycheck, and say you make $100,000, they're taking 20% out of your check, or trying to get you into that effective rate of anywhere between 15 and 20. You could, out of $1,000 contribution, you could see $800 is what they actually take out of your net take-home pay.
Yes.
Because of the way that withholding is working, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The money's coming out pre-tax, so before taxes are taken out, and you're not having any withholding on that money. So $1,000 contribution pre-tax comes out of your net $800, let's say.
Yes.
It's not as bad.
So it's not you don't feel the pinch as much. And now, this actually begs the question. Now, what do you think when you think pre-tax versus Roth? Like who should be contributing to what? Like which one's better?
Well, this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I look at it like if you're not someone who is budgeting, who is on top of their finances, do Roth contributions. And you're not taking advantage of that tax savings, do some forced Roth savings. Money comes out after taxes. It grows tax-free, right? That's the benefit of Roth.
Yes.
And that pre-tax savings that's coming out of your paycheck effectively means you get a little bit more back at tax time, right? So if you're doing a bunch of pre-tax savings in your 401k, you're juicing your tax return for next year.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not someone that's on top of their budget or on top of their, you might take that tax return and buy a Harley, make a down payment on the Harley that you were talking about, right? So why juice your future tax return, right? And kind of mess over your future self. Just pay the taxes now, right? Pay the taxes up front. Especially if you're not on top of the finances there, that allows the money to grow tax-free, and you don't have to. Your future self doesn't have to worry so much about it.
Yeah. So the idea is if you're not going to put thought into the tax consequence today, you might as well do something that's kind of brain dead in the future too.
Help your future self out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we could get into a big conversation around what's better. I mean, and there's really no straight answer. It depends on your tax situation, of course.
It
depends on
requires one of these. One of these guys. You got to have a crystal ball that actually works.
That's right.
Because the idea is you're playing the tax game.
Right.
What are taxes going to be highest now or later?
And we're in the second lowest tax regime of our history. And you can make the argument that this is where we'll stay, right?
When you consider federal taxes.
Federal taxes, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, for those listening in California, my heart goes out to you.
Yeah. State, local property. In terms of total taxes, not just to get off on a tangent, in terms of total taxes, I think that we pay higher degrees of taxes today as a percentage of our income than ever before. I just think you got to look at all the different taxes, licensing and registration, gasoline tax, property tax, local income tax. Then you got state income tax, state sales tax, federal income tax, FICA taxes. Dude, it adds up.
It adds up.
Adds
up quick.
Yeah, and it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. But I digress. Back to the 401k plan. Oh, one thing I did want to mention is that contributing to the 401k plan, even if you're doing pre-tax, it does not. So let's say you make $200,000 a year and you contribute $20,000 to the pre-tax 401k plan. You still have to pay FICA tax on that contribution. For those who don't know what the FICA tax is, my wife didn't know this. So we were going through we file an extension every year. We're going through our tax. She's like, where are all these taxes coming from? And I'm like, honey, we got federal income tax. You got FICA. What's FICA tax? Anyway, FICA taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, and
Yep.
Medicaid too. I think is thrown in that too, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah,
that's that. You're prepaying
top of that.
basically your retirement,
Yeah.
and that amounts to 15. It's 15.3. Is that right?
For you, it would be.
Yeah,
Self-employed.
15.3, which is what the way this is broken down for self-employed people, it's a flat 15.3 because you're paying your employer's half and then your half.
Right.
And then if you're an employee, so if you get a W-2 wage from an employer, they pay 7.65% for you,
Yeah.
and then you also pay a flat 7.65 up into a threshold. There's no cap on the Medicare tax, but Social Security is capped at something like 188,600. So there's a cap, and then once you make over that, there's no Social Security tax.
I think it's like 5.4 is the Social Security tax, and the Medicare is like the 2.
You can look it up.
the
You're
2
looking
and
for the
change.
breakdown, but just know for most people, it's like 7.65%, and you pay that regardless of whether you contribute to your 401k. So that $20,000 in that example I gave you, the 20,000 to the 200,000 in income that was contributed to the 401k, that 20,000 is still subject to the FICA tax. So,
You know what that makes me think of, though, too? I got a quick story,
Yeah.
or I guess anecdote, if you will. I know if you're tuning into the podcast, you're excited to hear about 401k plans, but there's one plan that you can contribute to that's usually a la carte or part of your employer's benefits where you don't have to pay FICA tax and you still get all of the benefits of the pre-tax deductions out of your paycheck, and that's the HSA. And I love me an HSA.
I love HSAs too.
man.
Yeah, the only problem with the HSA, other than that's how I think all accounts should work.
Yeah, right.
But the HSA, you have to have a high deductible health care plan, which
That's
I think
true.
is ridiculous. Let's just make it like an IRA. Everybody can contribute to an HSA. It's a wonderful program. I don't know why our government discourages thrift for health. Like, come on, why do you have to have a high deductible health plan for this thing? And it has to be an ACA compliant plan, which is even worse.
Right.
So, if you're in like like one of these cost sharing healthcare networks, which are perfectly designed for HSAs, they don't allow it. But yeah, that's another tangent.
Yeah.
Let's
Whole nother topic, I guess. Right?
Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit about 401k plan costs, because you've been in the business for a while and you've probably seen a full gambit of costs. Like, typically, what is the cost structure of a 401k plan?
Well, it'll depend on the size of the employer. And, I'll give you an example, right? So the larger the employer, right, they have more money let's just use Fidelity as an example. They'll have more company money or more money in their 401k, which is going to lower the cost because, not only is there more money, but then there's more participants to spread the costs among, to the point where you could see some large employers pay for everything. They don't pass that cost on to their employees in any way. It's all paid for by the company sponsored retirement plan.
Yes.
Now, if you're working for a smaller company and they're offering you a 401k, even if it's at Fidelity or T Rowe, I don't know if T Rowe Price does them these days, but you know what I mean, like
Empower's real
Empower,
big.
there you go.
So you typically see like John Hancock, Empower,
There you go.
Fidelity. There's a few others, but anyway.
Yeah, but
continue.
the smaller companies, right? If you're working for a smaller employer, you'll see higher costs there associated with that plan, because again, it's administrative costs. You're paying a fee if you take money out. You're paying a fee if you take a loan out from your 401k. You have an annual maintenance cost associated with just record keeping that they pass on to the employees. And so you can see some of those stack up, especially if you have a smaller balance on there.
Yeah. So in other words, like if you work with a large employer that has a large 401k plan, probably millions of dollars, your costs are going to be negligible.
Yeah.
So you typically see in a 401k plan, I would think, is a cost, like a line item that says plan fee or something like
Sure.
that. But I've also seen 401k plans where the fee's kind of hidden in the fund expense ratio.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a thing to consider for sure, especially if you're working for a larger employer. You can have a really good 401k plan. And by really good, I mean not only are you not paying any kind of maintenance or record keeping costs, all that stuff's paid for by the employer. Sometimes they even offer professional money management inside the 401k that's
Do you
either.
think that's worth it? I see that a lot. Like I see financial engines a lot.
Yeah, they're very popular. They're very popular,
Yeah.
even on Fidelity plans. We can get more into that. We talk about if it's worth to have it professionally
Yeah,
managed. But
continue with your.
as far as like costs go, you brought it up perfect. Like the expense ratio is something to consider, right? Because you could have what they call institutional class investments.
Yes.
Which institutional class just essentially says, hey, look, I got to have a whole lot of money to get this share class, right? So I have to have millions of dollars to be able to get a discounted.
Yeah, so you get
share.
economies of scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, this is true with like large 401k. What would you consider large? So like, at what point do you think these cost savings are triggered?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think that institutional class investments, just like everything in the industry, costs have been compressed. And I see that there are more and more employer plans that are able to offer these at lower and lower thresholds of dollars. So it's just something that even if you're not working at a Procter & Gamble local, for example, or a GE, it's still worth looking into because your employer may have it even at a couple $1 million in their 401k plan. You might be working with 30 engineers or something at a smaller company, and they may still be able to offer you institutional class investments because the pool of the 30 of you is enough to be able to get it. And like we're seeing in the industry, a lot of cost compression is bringing down costs and causing these plan sponsors to offer these better share prices to their 401k participants because they want your business.
The trend that I see, being in my position, I don't specialize in 401k plans, but we have in our firm advisors that do, and I've been involved in these discussions to like onboard, to set up our ERISA plan service architecture for our firm. And generally, as it's described to me, is like once plans reach like 10 million in assets, they kind of reach a point where it is more sensible for the employer to pay a fixed fee for plan design and record keeping and things like 338 fiduciary services than it is for them to pay like to embed the cost of the plan inside the expense ratio. So I see oftentimes that if it's a plan, like especially if it's 5 million or under, you typically have more expensive share classes. So when I say that, that what I mean is like if you look at your fund and your fund is the T. Rowe Price target date retirement 2030 fund, and you look in your plan size, your total 401k plan size is like $1 million, your expense ratio in that fund is going to be closer to like 0.8%. Whereas if your plan size is 10 million plus, your expense ratio is going to be literally the cost of that fund as it is through T. Rowe Price. So T. Rowe Price is going to basically charge very little. There's no like markup. Right. So it might be like 0.3%. Meaning like, okay, well, who's paying for the service? Well, usually what happens is the employer pays a flat fee to either a plan advisor, or what they also do for especially large employers is they don't hire a plan advisor. They just have an HR person do it.
Sure.
They literally have a position where that is your job. Sure. Is you are the plan fiduciary. You have to design this thing at cost. And that's kind of what I typically see. So I would say, right now, and what your point is like because the cost compression, that escape velocity is getting lower and lower, where now it might be like it's cost effective to do this at like a $5 million 401k plan.
Well, if you're listening and you're wondering if you have institutional class investments inside your 401k, which would make it cheaper than if you were trying to do it in an IRA, for example, you can look this up. You can look at the funds. Sometimes they give it away right there. It says institutional class investment, the Vanguard S&P 500 index, S&P, institutional class. It'll tell you. Another way to know is if it doesn't have a ticker symbol, you're using a proprietary or institutional investment.
They usually call it like a trust.
Yeah.
I see that a lot.
Yeah, and you'll see, like, they take GE's plan, for example, right? They have some institutional proprietary just to their plan of investments that if you like those and want those, you can only get those inside your 401k.
Yeah.
So if you leave that plan, you don't have access to it.
So it's really, really cost effective.
Yeah.
Very cost effective. In fact, it begs the question, like, why would you even leave that plan? So let's say you retired or you left your employer and went to a different employer. Like, why in the world would you like roll over your 401k then? Or your 403b or whatever it is that you have, 457 plans. Actually, did you know the largest retirement plan in the world is the thrift savings plan?
Is it really?
The federal government
Yeah.
thrift savings plan. Yes.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Anyway,
I think at a time, AT&T, because of how many companies they were gobbling it up, I think they were up there in terms of numbers. And then I think like Boeing's plan was up there too.
yes.
Yeah, so they've definitely got some high value plans. But
Interesting
hey,
anecdote.
yeah,
But like,
government
why would you leave these plans? Because there's like a lot of downside to doing that. It's not just expenses. It's you also bar yourself potentially from like tax efficient backdoor Roth IRA contributions. We not going to get into that, but we have a previous episode you can listen to if you're curious about that. But you also when you have a ERISA plan, you can retire at 55
yeah.
and take and get have no tax penalties.
right.
From a 401k plan, whereas you potentially could with a rollover IRA.
Sure.
Also, because of the anti-alienation provision inside 401ks, there's no creditors, no creditors, debitors, or predators after your retirement assets.
Yeah.
Like, because
Yeah.
it's literally you could go completely belly up on anything. Like your marriage could fall apart. Actually, marriage is not excluded because you
yeah,
got the
you get the quadro.
quadro.
They'll come for
But yeah, so stay married, and that goes on so many different levels. That's advice on so many different levels. That's just preserving your 401k plan. But you could literally just like file bankruptcy and you stop paying your bills, and nobody can go after your 401k. So like, why would you roll that over?
Well, it's a good question, right? And all the things that you mentioned are valid, right? Like the 401k giving you that extra protection, not just from creditors, but there's the, if you're a doctor, you're an OBGYN, right? And there's the concern there about the legal, right? The legal and being able to come after you personally. Your 401k adding that protection. Why then would it make sense to roll over in any of those circumstances if you get the added protection or you have the option? And honestly, sometimes it just doesn't,
Yeah.
right? If you're 401k, if you're fortunate enough to have a 401k where you have all of these options available to you, why not keep that protection? I always tell investors or clients that I'm working with, that we're not in a hurry unless there's and I'll get into this, but there's de minimis rules and stuff like that. Like if you have less than $5,000 or, I see that threshold being potentially higher where they just kick you out of the plan anyway. You can't stay even if you want to. So sometimes you have to leave the plan because they make you.
Yeah, I've seen plans just cut checks with tax penalty and everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And fortunately, the plans will roll you over to an IRA instead of just sending the check to your house. But depending on the amount of money, they may just send a check to your house if you're not on top of it.
Yeah.
So, so sometimes they just kick you out. The other what we see in our line of work, right, is we help people retire. And when you go to retire, you need access to your funds because, hey, I need a paycheck. And 401k plans might not offer the flexibility that you're after. You might want $1,000 a month, or you might want to take a partial distribution out to go on a trip or a vacation. And there are some 401k plans that are full payout only. Once you go to take your money, you have to take all of it or none of it.
Yes.
So you may just be forced out of the plan in that case.
Yeah, they're poorly designed for retirees, I find.
Yeah.
They're incredibly inconvenient to get money out of.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing it like on demand.
Right.
It's just there's no replacement for like just setting it up in your own self-directed IRA.
Exactly. You can't beat that. You want money, you take it out of an IRA. Out of a 401k, you may have to fill out paperwork every time you need money.
Yes.
And even if they let you take a partial distribution, it's not going to be as easy. There's mandatory withholding that they have to do. They have to take 20% out no matter what. So you're getting a reduced paycheck no matter if they even let you take a partial distribution.
Yeah.
Some states have mandatory tax withholding on their state level. So the withdrawal flexibility is just not there like it is in an IRA. And while we're speaking about flexibility, we might as well just tangential to that is options. I see a lot of clients that I'm working with, they want more investment options than what their 401k offers.
Yeah, tell me about like who's coming up with these 401k investment options. I see some real squirrely plans.
Yeah.
Like where it's like, why this fund?
Sure.
What's so special about this fund? Versus some other one, and it just seems like to me that they purposefully limit the investment options. Now, some offer what's called a brokerage link.
Brokerage link, yep.
Yeah, which I do want you to opine on that. But real quick, who's coming up with these investment options? Why are they so narrow?
Well, you have a fund lineup. And if by narrow we mean we have like 30 or 40 options to pick from, and 10 of them are target date funds.
Yes.
Okay, well, I might have one large cap growth fund, and I might have a blend, which is an index fund or an active blend fund. So I'm really just getting one fund per category. And I mean, any number of tinfoil hat things come to mind there, right? Like it's just whoever sells it the best to the HR rep. Hey, pick our fund, we're better. No, pick our fund, we're better.
Yeah. Which one of you has the dinner ticket to Jeff Ruby's, right?
And it literally is that, right? Like if you're a plan sponsor and
Yeah.
you're deciding, do I put your fund in or your fund in? Sometimes it comes down to, well, I like the cut of his jib, if you will.
The box seat tickets.
That's right. So there's a fiduciary, we're joking, but there is a fiduciary liability that the plan sponsor takes on to, of course, provide what they feel is the best investment options to their participants. And yes, companies have been sued over this in the past when they feel that fiduciary obligation was breached.
Yes, actually, that happened to Delta.
Yeah.
So
What happened to Fidelity?
Yeah. Did it?
That happened to Fidelity. Even while I was there.
The Kings.
The Kings. Their own 401k plan.
Well, what I've found is that these ERISA attorneys in these class action suits around these 401k plans have been so just persistent that these plans are so whittled down. Like the costs have gotten so low that there's literally no extras.
Sure.
And this kind of helps us come full circle to the whole idea behind financial engines. So like these 401k plans that I see, like even the large ones like Procter & Gamble, GE, they offer little to no financial advice around these things.
That's right.
They're kind of like, here's our menu, have at it.
Yeah.
Which is good in a sense that it drives costs down and it allows each employee to make their own choices. But what I find is that a great many people, too many in my opinion, try to say, you know what, I don't need to pay for it. I can just Google this, and
Sure.
Financial advice is just a ripoff, and they default to this mindset that conveniently in their mind saves them money.
Sure. Sure.
So they're basically being miserly.
Sure. And they're the ones that have like 4 target date funds. They're laddering target date funds.
Yes, I see this a lot, and I'm just like, you are losing so much money and opportunity, tax planning, and whatnot. Anyway, it would be nice if these 401k plans did offer some like planning layered on top of their but I don't think that's ever going to happen because the value we provide is too qualitative, and it's too easy for qualitative value to be discounted when you're in front of a judge. It's like, well, that I can't quantify that value. Like, how much is sleep? What is sleep factor worth? How do you prove that you slept better at night because your plan was solid? Like, it doesn't hold up in court, But what does hold up in court are nickels and dimes, fees taken out of an account.
Sure.
So. For that reason, I think that these plans are designed not necessarily to optimize the participant experience. They're designed to minimize legal liability.
That's a valid point.
Yeah,
right?
And that is a reason.
As a plan sponsor, right?
Yeah.
Like that's my concern. It is, yes, I want my employees to have their money grow and be able to retire one day, but right there is, I don't want to get sued.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And especially if I've hired a third-party plan sponsor as opposed to me taking it on as the company myself, that's what that plan sponsor is worried about, is making sure that they're not getting sued for their investment.
And the most
lineup.
obvious and clear thing you can get sued on are fees.
Yeah, right.
So now that's not to say fees. Now, the saying is in our industry, fees are only a problem in the absence of value. I don't like that term. I think that it all comes down to value. Fees are a very important component of the value equation. It's fees plus time plus I want to set it. hold on a second. It's exchange minus fees equals value.
Okay.
That's the formula.
Okay.
You know, what you get in exchange. So like if you're at Chick-fil-A and you order the Chick-fil-A sandwich, the #1 combo with the what do you call it? Waffle fries. I don't eat this stuff, but I see lines around Chick-fil-A. It's crazy. You know, and then so that's the thing you get minus the fees. The value you get is a full belly.
There you go.
You know, so you know, I think that one of the shames of these 401k plans is that in eliminating all the fees is they eliminate that exchange value as well.
Sure.
So tell me how have you effectively seen your clients and just 401k plan participants in general engage with professional advice? Like, how would you see that? You know, how do you think that should look?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? And like you said, some of it depends on what the employee is aware of that they do or do not have access to. I think that's kind of where we could start with this. And you know, I'll give you an example. When Brent and I were at Fidelity, part of our role was to be an exchange of value that the plan participants got. We were in there, and we were in Fidelity's guidance department. So if you were a 401k participant in, you know, GE's plan, for example, or AT&T's plan, if you asked for help, you had to ask for it, or you had to give a hint that you needed help, right? Like, hey, I'm not really sure what to invest in, or I'm worried about my portfolio, or something.
I'm clueless.
Help me. Which is, you know, rarely does someone call in and say, I'm clueless, help me.
It takes a lot of self-awareness.
That's right. But they would come to the guidance department at Fidelity, which was not, you know, we didn't charge, or at least didn't at the time, charge for any of the advice that we were giving. And we would truly help, I believe, truly help people invest, plan, and save.
Was that limited
to
in
reach
scope?
their long-term goals? Limited in the sense that, like, it's just like any plan sponsor, where Fidelity is worried about being sued.
Yes.
You're on a recorded line. I'm not giving you Matt's opinion. I'm giving you Fidelity's opinion, which is still good, which is still designed to help you meet those long-term goals and success. Like, hey, you should save 15% of your money towards retirement was a Fidelity, we believe, and it still holds up today. And you should save, if you're listening, 15% of your income towards retirement. So again, that was the type of advice that we were giving, but it was not, you didn't pay us for that advice. We provided it as a service on your 401k. And how I was incentivized, which that's the famous Charlie Munger, show me the incentives and I'll show you, you know,
The
I'll
outcome.
show you the outcome, right?
Yeah.
The incentives for us was to make them a Fidelity customer for life, right? We wanted them to not just, you know, invest in their 401k
Well, I'd say
with
it
us.
works. You know, people love Fidelity.
Yeah.
You know, I know this is not meant to be a Fidelity plug, but you know, I really respect the company. They've done well.
And they, again, being able to provide this more or less free advice was a nice benefit. Now, okay, free is cheap or whatever you want to plug there, but also you're getting the advice that you're paying for.
Yes.
Some of the time, right? And so while I can provide you great advice, it doesn't mean calling 1-800-FIDELITY, that's what you're going to get. So you have the there's always risk there is what I'm trying to say, especially when you're getting advice that you're not paying for. You're getting free advice, and there's always going to be some kind of caveat or some kind of motive or ulterior whatever, because they're there to make money.
Well,
so if you're just like, hey, calling in looking for help, that could be one route. But another route is you're going out on your own. You're looking for, or you're seeking that financial advice.
yes.
And that's going outside of your company offered plan or benefit and saying, hey, I need to find a professional, and I need that professional to help me invest my money. And
Now, do you think it should be limited to that, just investment allocation advice?
in what way?
So I would think that the investment, this kind of ties back into that financial engines thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a waste of money. And I'll tell you why. Because
You're paying them to invest in 10 funds.
you got 10 funds. Like, it's not that difficult. Like, just pick the target date fund. If you need an asset allocation, just do the target date fund.
If you need
Like,
financial engines,
you don't need
a
to
target
pay.
fund.
Yeah, you don't need to pay financial engines to choose amongst 15 different funds. Like, come on. You know, you go use ChatGPT or Grok or whatever. They'll come. It literally is that effective, and it'll save you thousands of dollars.
Now, what about rebalancing? Because you could argue that the benefits, if I'm financial engines, right, part of the benefits of the services.
A lot of plans to have automatic rebalancing.
Exactly. But you'd have to know that as the employee.
So
you have to know that you have to do that.
Back to what you were saying. The asset allocation is a component of the 401k plan advice. I think the true value engaging in financial advice isn't just in picking and choosing investments. It's in the, I hate the term holistic because it's so abused. Everybody uses, oh, we're holistic. It's like, oh, bull crap. You know, holistic advice ties in, it integrates everything.
Right.
And there's no person that has identical an identical situation. You've got you know, some people have Social Security, some people have different pensions, some people don't have pensions at all. Actually, a lot of people don't. Some people have kids, some people don't have kids. You know, different goals. Like there's folks that love to travel. There's folks like me that would rather stay home for the rest of their life. You know, it's like, it's just everybody's different, and there's no like one size fits all.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, like what is like engaging in a financial planner? What's the most typical thing?
Well, I mean, I think the value of engaging in financial planning. So if you're going to hire or reach out or ask for help on your 401k, I think one of the best things you can get out of that conversation, or you should go in with the expectation, is a clearer understanding of goals. You want to have and establish goals that you're seeking for why you're making this investment. So if we, again, 401k, when do you want to retire? You know, if you're 20 years old, 30 years old listening to this podcast, you might have an answer to that. But the thought process being, what are we investing for? What's the point? What are we building? You're working at this job. You're pursuing this career in X. What does the end of that look like? What do you want that to look like? Do you desire early retirement? Are you looking for financial independence? Or maybe you're not going to completely retire, but you're going to step away and maybe work part-time. So you're in the value of the financial planning advice there is the ability to set clear goals and address any concerns that you have about being able to make that investment, right? So you're saying, okay, I'm worried about running out of money. I'm worried about not having enough. I'm worried about the stock market. I've never invested before, or whatever the case may be. The value of that financial planner is helping you take that first step and addressing those concerns so that you feel good about being able to take a risk. Because that's one of I think the most important things about making this 401k investment is you're now responsible for growing this money. People don't have pensions anymore.
Yes.
It's on the employee.
It's become more and more important to kind of carry your own bag.
That's right.
So now,
you got to be able
from
to take
the
risks to do
financial
that.
planner side of things, like you and I are in the business. Like I wish we were altruistically, designed, where, we could do all this for free and, and everything.
Well, free is cheap.
Yeah. But we obviously make a living giving advice. So how do you pay for 401k plan advice? Because your money is in your employer plan. And you can't like move it out. You're not going to move it out just to like have your advisor chart. Like, I guess I need to explain the traditional financial advice model is bring your money to
That's right.
our platform.
That's right.
And we will charge you a %.
That's right.
And deduct that from your account as a management fee. That's
right.
called the assets under management model. But when you have your 401k plan, all your money's locked in that plan, that's closed off. So how do you compensate the advisor?
Well, this is a hot topic, right? Because that's the DOL ruling. That's the concern that the government has. All of this money are in these 401k plans, and advisors are still being paid on a model that's like 50 years old at this point, which is I'm paid for AUM. I'm paid based on how much money I'm managing for you. And so I have an incentive then to roll your money over to me.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm paid if I'm managing your money, and I'm not paid if I'm not.
Yes.
And like you're saying, if I want to give you advice, but I'm not going to do that for free, right?
Yes.
Or that's the theory. I'm not just free advice, cheap, whatever we're saying. So how do I then get paid, or how should you engage that financial planner when they're paid based on assets under management? The easiest solution is you have money for that advisor to manage, and then you hope that they're not, okay, well, I want your 401k money too. I'm going to give you advice based on the money that I'm managing, and I don't have this ulterior motive to consolidate the rest.
See, as a planner though, that's problematic.
Yeah.
And the reason why that's problematic is because the term fiduciary should not be used lightly. I think too many advisors, investment advisor representatives say, "Oh, I'm a fiduciary." Use it as a marketing plan.
Sure.
No, that actually means something. That means that you are on the hook.
Yep.
All right. So if your advice happens to be maladvice or it just happens to be off a little bit, you're liable.
Yeah.
And if you tell your client, if you give them precise guidance in the 401k plan, and that 401k plan happens to be a significant balance, and it happens to, not work out for them, you are absolutely liable for that. And if your E&O insurance doesn't cover it, say goodbye to your business.
Sure.
That's going to show up as a complaint, and I think that liability transfer is worth money. People need to understand that they have to pay for that.
Sure.
That is not free. And, I think this what a lot of advisors do, and they're kind of ignorant as to, the risk that they're taking on, is they say, oh, just have a small account with me, 10% of your worth, inside this, and I'll give you advice on the whole thing. Well, now you've got a lopsided liability structure.
Sure.
All right. So the only way that I can see around this is you have to charge a fair and reasonable flat fee. So if you, as a consumer, want a 401k plan with your employer-sponsored plan, and you want to enjoy those the benefits that they provide, and they do, we've discussed them. There's a lot of benefits to having your money with a 401k plan, but don't for a second think like, oh, it's going to be cheaper for me to do it this way. No, if you want proper advice and you're not trying to take advantage of someone's, like if you're working with an advisor that's like, they're managing like a $10,000 account for you, and then you've got millions of dollars of 401k plan, they're giving you advice in the whole thing. That advisor you're working with is not working a smart business model. In fact, they're on a path to kind of run out of. They're going to go out of business at some point. Like that's just a bad business model. And I don't advise. I'm not going to say don't work with someone. Like there's always one-off scenarios where maybe you're truly the only one, or there's an expectation that, hey, when you do retire, I cannot continue to give you advice in that plan, which is what I do for my clients. If it's locked there, I will accommodate you, but just understand, my business model expects that, we're going to have a different solution around this at some point. But really what I find the best model around that is flat fee.
Yeah.
Because then you can properly assess the risk to your business, and the client values that advice, because it's different when you start paying for it. Like, think about this. Let's take a gym. LA Fitness, is that where you used to go?
I went to LA Fitness.
LA Fitness. They give you, let's say they give you the membership for free. Would you show up? Well, you might. You might, Matt.
I mean, yeah.
I would say most people don't.
Okay.
All right. So there is a trait. In fact, there's a story about the Peloton bike. People can look this up. So Peloton was not a big hit when it first came out because it was too cheap.
Yeah. Okay.
People would look, it was a high quality stationary bike. People would, you could buy it for super cheap, and nobody was using it. So they took it off the shelves, and they talked with a marketing strategist, and they said, here's what you got to do. You got to double the price or triple the price. I forget what it was. They significant increase. They did it, sold off the shelf.
Sure.
How does that make sense? Well, it's because we perceive value. Value, like price is a indicator of value.
Sure.
So if you are paying, for $5,000 for financial advice, you're much more likely to follow it because it's perceived as high quality.
Sure.
And I will also say it's probably high quality, because someone who can get away with charging $5,000 for advice, they're probably giving good advice.
Well, I'll say a couple things on that, right? I mean, if your money is being managed, right, you might think, okay, $5,000. Well, if you have an AUM fee off of that, there's a good chance you're already paying $5,000 on the money that's being managed already. So what you're saying is that a flat fee advisor, right, who's not charging based on how much money they're managing, they're just charging based on the net worth that the family has, for example, and then they're giving you advice, and it doesn't matter where your money is, that allows the advisor to be objective.
Yeah. Now, right? I say we use both models, because not every fit is right. Or not every model is the right fit for every client. So, for some folks, they prefer us to manage their money, and we throw it when planning is included. For some folks, we do flat fee because that's what they like. I think that a good advisor is going to model a program that works for you. But I think that we've really touched on this topic in a lot of different angles. So, in other words, if you're looking for a plan, an advisor on your 401k plan, what Matt and I would suggest is not necessarily to rely just on the call center reps, although you can get good value out of that from time to time. It's going to be, just understand it's limited in scope. If you want something more comprehensive, especially as you're about to approach a major life change like a change in employer or retirement, you really should be engaging with a holistic financial planner, someone who is seasoned and has the business model to support the financial advice, the type of financial advice that you're looking for, whether it be assets under management or flat fee. So trying to think of what else we can talk about. So we talk. One thing we really didn't talk about are is plan design. So you did talk a little bit about, the safe harbor plan, which is the most common style plan you see.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of interesting 401k plans out there, GE being one, Procter and Gamble's another. I brought those up. So what are some, for people in these unique plan design, what I mean by plan design is literally you've customized the 401k plan section of the tax code. So Procter and Gamble, for example, has a private letter ruling with the IRS saying that this is a qualified plan, and it's the only plan like this in the entire nation.
Sure.
So, and you can design 401k plans to have special carve outs and interesting things. So what are some of the most interesting things that you've seen? And I think we'll end on that note.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the, and you can see this not just in a unique plan, maybe like Procter and Gamble, but a company like even Microsoft has access to this, or I've seen it in their plan, and other employees of whether it's larger firms, smaller firms, is the ability to contribute after-tax money to the 401k plan.
Yes.
To me, that makes the plan truly unique. Not every plan has the ability to do it.
What is the cap on that?
So after tax, and again, I'm not talking about Roth. I'm talking about a third source of money, because there's the ability to contribute pre-tax.
Yes.
There's the ability to contribute Roth, which is after tax, and then there's the ability to do true after tax contributions. So again, after taxes are taken out of your check, you contribute the money to the plan, but
why
it
would you do
grows
that?
taxable.
Why would you do that?
Because the limits are higher.
Yeah. What's the
So-
limit on the Roth and the pre-tax?
Well, the limit on the Roth and pre-tax, like 23.5 for the year, is your limit for 2025 on your Roth and pre-tax contributions. We can check that, but I'm almost 100%.
No, you're right.
Yeah, 23.5 on your pre-tax and Roth contributions for this year. So if you're like, well, I'm in a fortunate position where I can save on top of that, and maybe I'm a high earner, or I have the ability to defer more, my spouse works, which allows me to, kind of do what I, need to with my paycheck, we could have these super savers or the ability to contribute after tax, which is on top of the 23.5 limit, but only if the plan allows you to do that. So it's truly a unique plan when it allows you to contribute above and beyond the $23,500 limit. Now, of course, there's a limit to how much after tax you can put in. It's a combined limit between you and the employer. It's about $70,000 or so for this year. But again, it's saying that I get to go above and beyond the 23.5 limit, contribute after tax money, which allows me to put more money into my 401k, which opens up other opportunities like Roth conversions and
is that where the term mega backdoor Roth comes from?
That's right. The ability to do the mega backdoor conversions.
Now there was talk about that closing, a couple years ago, like in 2021, and that died on the vine.
Yeah.
All the rich people in Congress wanted that to stay open. So the way I understand mega backdoor Roth. So the way this works is, so the total contribution for 401k plans is including employer contributions, is $70,000.
Right.
And I just looked this up, so I didn't pull that off memory. I know it floats. It used to be 62, and then now it's 70, and that includes catch-up contributions too, I believe.
Right.
Okay.
Well, no, it would include, that's the 415C limit.
Oh no, it does include. So it doesn't include. So you can do
catch-up. That's
right.
technically,
because you got now the extra catch-up.
Yeah.
So the
extra
total
mega special bonus catch-up.
Yeah. So if you're between 60 and 63, you can do $81,250.
That's
Dude,
right.
that is so much.
Yeah.
But only 30. I would guess 30,000 in that example. No, in this example it would be 30. oh golly, $34,250 would be tax qualified, so either Roth or pre-tax, leaving the balance could be converted to Roth. However, it's only the principal, right? Like the gains can't be converted to Roth. Don't the gains have to stay in pre-tax?
Well, it'll depend on the plan, but remember your gains are taxable, so you kind of almost want them to stay pre-tax. You don't want to pay taxes necessarily on any kind of conversion.
So you could convert it, but it would be a taxable conversion.
Depends on the plan. Let's just say that typically what I see plans do that offer the Roth in plan conversion, so you have to convert the money in the plan.
Yeah.
They do convert the earnings with your basis, meaning
So they'll do the whole thing.
they'll do the whole
but
thing.
then
You have to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
And if they do, so let's say that you contributed $10,000 of after tax, but you waited until the end of the year to do your conversion. Well, that $10,000 maybe, let's say, it grew to $11,000 with the earnings. So you have $1,000 of earnings and $10,000 of your contributions. You would pay taxes on that $1,000 that gets converted.
And you can convert within a plan, or do you have to roll it over to do the conversion?
Depends on the plan, but what I see more and more now is that not only are you able to do it inside the plan, but plans are offering automatic Roth conversions. Isn't that beautiful?
I love it. I love it, man. That's
a truly unique plan.
Yeah.
A truly unique plan. Like
Which plan do you know that does that?
I mean, again, you're looking at your larger employers or employers that have a large enough employee base where they can pass all of the fairness tests.
Does GE's plan do this?
Now, back in my day, right? So when I was at Fidelity, they did not offer. So GE's plan specifically didn't offer the in-plan conversion, but they also didn't. They may not. And they also didn't offer it automatically. Automatic in-plan conversions is a new thing.
Yeah.
It used to be that they would have to call in, talk to a person. It was on the employee to do it every month or every paycheck. Now that they offer it automatically, that's beautiful.
Yeah, the more you know, man. And if you're the kind of person that doesn't like review your plan document and look for these like secrets, God, just give us a call. Like we love to read plan documents. Like we scour through them. In fact, we're talking earlier, prior to this podcast, like, oh, we got to reach out to so-and-so, get their plan document. Like, we're excited to read this stuff. So, it's a fun thing. Like, and it doesn't cost as much as you think. Like, people, I don't know why they think that we're, exorbitantly expensive. But I guess because we call ourselves wealth managers, and they think wealth, they think,
New branding.
That's like, that works. They work with the billionaires. It's like, no, that's not. We work with everyday, I shouldn't say everyday people, because the people we work with are extraordinary in my opinion. But we work with normal people. Like we're not talking like
normal people's good.
Yeah, we're not talking like what's the word I'm looking for? Like the aristocrats of society. Although some of them might be one day. But anyway, I don't mean to. I sound like I'm belittling my client. I really don't mean it. Like I have utmost respect for the people we work with. I just mean to say that they're not, we don't work with any billionaires, not currently. So, all right, well, Matt, I think that kind of ties the bow on this episode. So, looking forward to you coming back. You're officially on the team here, the Money Alchemist team. So Brent and I will definitely have you as a third party. We'll have like a 3 people all at one time once. Who knows what we're going to talk about? I do want to eventually have an episode where we talk about private equity, because that's a deep topic, and it's getting it's like unfurling as we right before us, and it's affecting small cap stocks, which have done very poorly. So I do want to do an episode on that eventually. But all right, so for our listeners, tell them how they can find you.
Yeah, I love it. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. You can find me on the National Wealth Management Group website. I'm officially on there.
nwmgadvisors.com. We'll put it in the show notes.
You got it. I'll be there.
Yeah, and email is matt@nwmgadvisors.com.
You got it.
And, you can always connect with our team here. We'll put all our contact information in the show notes. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you all next time.
Thank you so much.
Opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Advisory services offered through National Wealth Management Group, LLC.